As I was doing the yoga right now, I realized things were just going through my mind, so many different things about the situation that's happened in the last 10 days. And I realized I'm in trauma mode. I really am. There's so many moments that I can't fathom someone that loves me would put me through, would put Kai through, would put us through. This guy, when he dropped that bombshell on us that Wednesday morning, just out of nowhere, I'm sure it wasn't out of nowhere for him. You know why? Because I should have seen the signs. He stopped doing things that were feeding his dopamine rush. He stopped he bought a little printer, like really fast, so he can print our pictures from our adventures. And he would say, "Sweetheart, send me your pictures so I can print them out." And I would, and he was in charge of that. He'd put them in the photo album. He'd get such a rush from that. He stopped doing that, I noticed. And then he bought a dehumidifier, a giant one. And he used to be in charge of that. He used to check the temperatures around the house. He used to dump all the water from the big tank. He used to keep that thing running, switch rooms. Like, he was very active with that. And I noticed in the last few weeks that he had stopped doing that. He actually left the tank of water in there completely full for must have been at least 2 weeks, because I never saw him dump it out, and I dumped it out yesterday and it was completely full. So he stopped doing that too. I notice these things. But I just chucked it up to, we get into habits and we get into phases. And I thought maybe it was a phase and like he'd go back to it, But maybe it was just his dopamine lowering. Like he was getting out of a manic mode. Like I wasn't his favorite person anymore, and or that feeling was tapering down. And because I was a real person with real needs and real insecurities and real questions, and life was real. Kai is real. He's a challenge, and a lot of real stressors in life. And all of a sudden, it's not that easy. It's not that fun. There are moments where you gotta be serious and you gotta be an adult, and I don't know. I can't speak for him, but these are the things that I noticed, and it's so frightful. It's frightening to me that the man that would tell me that he loves me, the way that he told me, the way that he spoke to me, the way that he held me, it's frightening to me that this man who would tell me he was going to grow old with me, just days prior even, he said that. Days prior, we watched a movie about a family who survived the Sri Lanka tsunami, and how terrifying that was. And I remember we held each other so close, and we told each other that we would never want anything to happen to each other, that we would always, we always wanted to be with each other. I felt like it cemented my love for him. I felt like I believed in him. And then days later, the last happy video that I made on my YouTube channel was 2 days prior to his decision. The day that I fired Raphael. And I know that we were both stressing about that, but he was mega stressing about that compared to me. And it led to an argument that Monday that shouldn't have escalated the way that it did. Not by any means. I wasn't angry, and I never got to that level. but he called me a word that I won't repeat. And I was like, I had to ask him, are you on drugs? It didn't even occur to me that this was a bipolar episode at that moment, because like I said, I didn't do the research.
You know, you'll always be a part of my heart. I'll never forget you or the impact and influence you had on my life. You certainly brought out a lot of beauty in life, just being you. I love you.
That man who could say this,
I love you.
that he loves me. That man who put a ring on my finger and swore to me that we would grow old together. That man who would tell me that he was here and he wasn't like the other men. He talked shit about Ryan, how he didn't deserve me. He didn't know how to be present like he did, you know? That man who knew we were something special just got confirmed that a few times. Just up and left us. Let's turn on the light. It's getting dark. Just so crazy. Just up and abandon us. And I'm trying to wrap my head around something that is nonsensical. I'm thinking to myself, how frightening would it have been had I moved to Portland for him, had I moved in with him, and the same outcome. He would have gotten tired of being a family man, of actually dealing with real issues that families deal with. Can you imagine him kicking me and my son out of his place instead of him leaving? He would have done it too, because he did it to his sister. He actually kicked his sister and his nephew out when his nephew was about Kai's age. He kicked him out into the street. When he first told me that story, it sent red flags, because it's like, if you can do it to your sister, would you do it to me? And the answer is yes. I was smart enough to say, hey, if you move here, you work remotely, you can move here, I could keep my job. Otherwise, if I move there, you're gonna have to help support me for a minute until I find a job. Guess what? He moved here. That was the smartest decision I could have made. But that man up and abandoned everything. Not only did he just propose to me like 6 weeks ago, literally gave me this nice over 1 carat diamond from Shenko. I know it's a real diamond. He just gave me that 6 weeks ago. A man that's not sure about you, a man that's not, in love with you, doesn't give you a 1+ carat diamond ring and ask you to marry him. 6 weeks ago. We wanted to get married June 3rd. And it was quick, but we had the venue, and I was in the process. I was going to get my dress. I was going to get his ring. I'm so glad that I waited. I waited not because I had hesitations. I waited budgetary-wise, monetary-wise. I waited. I could be in the process right now buying his ring and waiting for my wedding dress to arrive. How devastating. We also got approved for a home loan. Yes, we got approved for a home loan successfully, and we were approved for quite a substantial amount between the two of us. And we were actively looking for a home. And he walked away from that. The lenders keep sending us some emails. I'm not going to tackle that. I'm going to leave him there. If he wants to be an adult and face that and tackle that, he can do it. I already had to call his clinic because he had appointments. He had very specific and very important appointments. 1, 2, 3 appointments to start off with because of his poor physical health. And he didn't go to them. He blew them off. And so I already had to call the clinic and let them know, hey, he's not going to be attending ever again. Again, he had a mental breakdown and left us, and he's off somewhere with some random family in another city, living there until he can figure out how to get to Portland. And I said, please let that provider know in Joshua's notes that that's what happened. And the receptionist was horrified. She's like, oh my gosh, I will let him know right away. I had to do that. I'm just devastated. He didn't care about his health. He didn't care about my health. I had some important appointments that I was finally able to make because I had a partner. And he reassured me that he was here to help me. He reassured me that now that he was here, I could count on him for these things. And this is why I'm sick, because my tonsils need to come out. And I keep getting sick because my tonsils don't work. And I need to get them out, and I can't because I have nobody to help me when I have to be in bed rest. He reassured me time and time again, I'm here. That's why you have me. That's why we're a team. He was even not pushing, but he was encouraging me to work less hours. So work less hours so I could be here for the family, so I could be here for myself and maybe possibly even do some little extracurricular things. He was encouraging me to talk to my management at work to reduce my hours to part-time because we could afford comfortably to live here with his salary in mind. Extremely comfortably. And the day that I finally did, I took a while to do this because I wasn't seeing him. When a man really engages in being the head of household, engages in being the protector and all of this, it shows. I wasn't seeing that with him. He had done a few things that put me on edge. That didn't scream, hey, I'm the protector of this, I'm the head of household, I'm the protector, I'm here to take care of you, I'm here to make sure that you're safe. He had not done things that would say that. So I had hesitation. And then at one point I did talk to him about that, because he's my partner. I'm supposed to bring these things up to him. And I told him why I hadn't done that yet, why I hadn't spoken to management yet, that I had my hesitations. I didn't feel necessarily safe sometimes, in the hopes, I'm not taking it like criticism, in the hopes of working these things out. From what I understand, from what I've been reading, people with BPD, certain forms of it can take things, comments and statements as criticism, like severe criticism. So if Joshua's bipolar has been untreated for so many years, it could very well be experiencing BPD as well. And you know what? That one word that he used this last time that I won't repeat, when I mentioned later on in that argument, I can't believe you called me that. I'm your partner. I can't believe you called me that word. He kind of chuckled, huh, yeah, or something like that. Or I can't remember if he said yeah or I did or something like that, but he chuckled. And I was like, whoa. I felt like I wasn't talking to my partner. ever since, I felt like I wasn't talking to my partner anymore. The time before that, when he had lost his temper and exploded like that, he called me a bitch. And that surprised me. That stunned me, because no beautiful relationship that I've ever had has ever been vile like that. There's just things that we would never dream of calling each other, So I was like, come on, that's crossing the line. I didn't like it. I remember telling Joshua, don't call me that. It's like there's some words there's no going back from. And when I'm not just I wasn't just some dumb nobody girlfriend that he was gonna, dispose of. Well, I guess he disposed of me too, but I was the woman he chose to marry. I was the woman wearing his ring, this beautiful ring. I was the woman that after 39 years of life, he chose me as his wife. So you don't call her a bitch. That's not okay. That's not the kind of life I wanted for myself. I needed the respect of my husband, just like I was respecting. I wanted to respect him. But then the next time that he had this explosion, this last time, he called me something worse. And I was like, oh, it's escalating. Like, this isn't okay. This isn't okay. And I guess I realize now that that was his bipolar disorder. And it's hard. It's hard to find him accountable for these things when I don't know how much of it is this condition and how much of it is just him not controlling himself. I don't know. It's really confusing. But all these things pop up. So he didn't care about his health. He didn't care about our home loan. He didn't care that he just bought me a beautiful, expensive ring. He didn't care that I had appointments that I needed him for. He didn't care that he told me that he'd always be here, that to take some time, for myself and work part-time so I could be here for the family. I could be here for his appointments and Kaya's appointments and my appointments and the house and dinner. We were actually talking about, like, hey, I wouldn't mind being the one who makes the dinners. I wouldn't mind assuming that role for my family. Like, I want to provide for you guys. I want to cook for you guys. I want to nurture my family. And of course, if I have that time, I'm going to do it. So, I don't mind. And he was excited. I was like, baby, I have so many recipes and stuff that I can't wait to share with you. I said, did you like my fish tacos? He said, yeah. Did you like my fettuccine alfredo? He's like, yeah. I have so many things that I could cook for you. I'm looking forward to that, because Kai doesn't like to eat. He's a little toddler. He doesn't like eating, so I don't cook for him. I don't cook for me. He eats the basic toddler stuff. I was excited to cook for my future husband. Nothing was sacred. Nothing. He dropped everything, and just walked away. He literally yelled, "Fine!" when my son was in the house, and grabbed 2 bags, shoved a whole bunch of stuff in them. I went and took my son to daycare. When I came back, he was practically out the door. And I was like, where are you going? Wait a minute. Where are you going? 1 bag behind his back, 1 on his side. And he just kind of iterated that he was leaving. And I was like, but what? Babe, okay, one thing is saying stuff when we're angry, but another thing is actually executing this. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And it's just like repeating himself. And I was like, what are you talking about? Take that shit off and come sit down. I made him take the bags off. He left them by the door, and he came and sat down on the couch. And I sat down in front of him, and that's how we would sit down and talk to each other. I didn't hold his hands or anything. He was very standoffish. He's very cold. It was like very distant. And I dealt with this guy like that from time to time. I dealt with that part of him. And it was scary. It was scary because it was like ice. I feel like I used to be like that once upon a time. There were moments where I would emotionally lock up to protect myself. emotionally lock up for a few hours, and I couldn't get out of there. And I remember I had a partner, and I can't remember who would try to get me out of that emotional blockage. And eventually he would, but it would just be in that space, in that time. I'd never seen Joshua lock up like that and stay that way. I usually, eventually, with hours of talking to him and letting him know, hey, I love you. We are so worth it. Anything here can be fixed. He would come around, but this time he wasn't. And that was the thing with Joshua, that I'd never practiced with any other partner. In my mind, when we were arguing about whatever dumb thing, I would think to myself, Kayla, you love this man, and this isn't worth it. Just let him know you love him. And I would say, randomly, like in the argument, babe, I love you, and I don't want to fight with you, and I want to get back to just being in your arms. I would. Every time. You can ask him. Every time. There was no talking to him that day. And I started to cry because I realized how severe the situation was. What the fuck? What do you mean you're leaving? No rational thing, and I must have talked for like 2 hours. No rational thing that I said to him mattered. He was gone. He walked out that door, and he was never my partner again. The next time I saw him, he came on April 30th for his items, his stuff. And I was so traumatized by that. I guess he could see it because the first thing he asked me is, do you want a hug? And I was like, yeah. I tried to meet him at a park twice to talk to him prior to this, to try to make sense, to tell him I loved him, tell him that this wasn't worth it. I thought he was just, I don't know. I thought this was a phase. I was hopeful that he would, snap out of it, realize, wait a minute, we're too fucking important. We're too fucking amazing to do this to each other, to just walk out like nothing. He never did. He came and grabbed his stuff, and it was the hardest thing. I wasn't very graceful the first 2 hours. He started having more empathy towards me and more compassion, and it made it bearable. He would hold my hand when we'd put things in the car. We'd walk back to the house holding hands. He kissed me at one point. He hugged me several times when I couldn't cope. He looked into my eyes and he said, I love you. How is this love? That feels like gaslighting. How are you going to tell me you love me and then abandon everything we were building so amazing? That's why that 5 of Pentacles, that person walking away miserably, there's those 5 pentacles in that window. Those were all our wonderful things happening to us. The wonderful things, wonderful blessings that we had. There was a lot of change and a lot of stresses, but they were all positive. They were all good things. We were learning and growing together. There was some real good stuff here. How could you just up and leave it like that? I never got an explanation other than he needed to go to somewhere that was familiar, and he knew how to navigate. And he wanted us to be friends online. At one point he said he wanted to be more. I have it on recording. But he's just messing around with me, saying that he wanted to be more and then change the subject to talking about the weather in the same sentence. That he wanted more with me. That's what it was. I want more with you. And then she started talking about the weather. I'm like, the fuck? What is that supposed to mean? I didn't even address it. Because I'm grown. I'm not here for fucking games. I certainly wasn't here to become his friend and get to know him because he wanted to get to know me again online. I wasn't going to do that. No. He mentioned at one point that he didn't want to lose me as he was driving my car to storage. He didn't want to lose me. He wanted to keep talking to me. Maybe he could put a camera up so we could have access to each other. What's the point of that? I wasn't there in Portland. He's not here in California. We wouldn't ever be able to go on a date, hang out with each other, like really get to know each other in person, like living together. We were already together. A man that loves you, that really loves you, doesn't just up and abandon you like this. Up and abandon everything. The side of the house. The side of the house is unfinished, and it's rained. And I told him before he left, I don't even know what to do with that, babe. If it rains, it's all gonna get damaged. And he said, well, I wanted to stay here so I could finish that for you, figure things out. He wanted to literally stay in the house while he figured out what to do. Like it was over between us, but he wanted to stay in the house comfortably while he figured out his next move. Are you kidding me? No. Fuck no. You said you were walking out the door and abandoning us? I'm not gonna let you stay in the house just comfortably while you fucking abandon us. What kind of shit is that? I never saw it coming from him. No, we didn't have the kind of relationship that was volatile like that. We didn't have the kind of relationship like had this happened with another partner in the past, then yeah, he was a douchebag, you know, of course. I could see that happening easily. But when you're with a guy who's self-proclaimed dorky, sweet, nice guy, you're with a guy who you have this incredible chemistry, and every day we look at each other and it's like he says he's blessed and I say I'm the happiest I've ever been, and we're just in love, and then suddenly this happens. That's life shattering. That's my heart, my soul breaking and stabbing me with it. Multiple places. You never see it coming. So I'm in trauma mode. I'm still trying to process all of this and make some kind of sense of it. Because how am I to trust if I dated again? How am I to trust that this overwhelming sense of happiness that I'm feeling, thinking that everything's okay, thinking that my partner is telling me that I'm safe in his arms, that I'm safe with him, to go ahead and even reduce my work, reduce my time that, you know, that I get paid, and my responsibilities so I can have more freedom, because he's got it. He's the man of the house, you know, being my female energy. He's got the male energy because I'm safe. And all of a sudden he up and leaves in the same moment he decides. How am I ever supposed to get over that and trust again? Trust another man if I could get now triggered by being extremely happy, thinking, when is the shoe gonna drop? So much damage. This isn't fair. I remember telling him before, you're not fighting fair, babe. I'm so proud of myself because even though there were moments where I was justified in the way that I acted, especially when I hear other girlfriends and the way that they would have reacted, I think it was pretty mellow. But I'm pretty proud of my fucking self for being his therapist and his mother and his all these counselors and psychiatrists in those moments where he needed me, and his girlfriend. I was there for him. I was there calmly for him at times when I knew that I needed to back down and just let him know that I loved him. I was there. In my mistakes, I apologized. I apologized profusely, and I told him, hey, those things won't happen again. I'm not on my end, and I kept it. I keep my word, because my word is my honor. I have integrity. I work on self, genuinely do. He never apologized to me. He'd say, I'm sorry. If I brought it up, sorry. I don't like talking about it, it's uncomfortable. I have an attitude about it. Those would be the moments that I'm like, are you a narcissist? I still don't know. But something's really wrong. Something's really wrong when you can do this awful stuff to a small child and a single mom after so much, after through so much together. He was thriving here. And he knew it. He told me, yeah, I know. He was thriving here. This was the world he needed. He was lucky to get a woman in his life that cared deeply about him, that was there for him, that would hold his hand and guide him through all the things that he had panic attacks about and social anxieties about, the things that cripple him. I was here for them, baby. With love and support and patience and understanding, even when I had to put myself outside of the situation, even when I was hurt, I was here. When you didn't hear me, when I didn't have that safe zone, that safe space that I gave you, I was here. You needed a woman like me in your life to thrive, and you started thriving, and you know it. You needed a son in your life, you got one. Or you wanted a son in your life, you got one. And we both loved you immensely. And you almost got your driver's license, you almost bought a truck, and you let all that go for couch surfing, middle-aged couch surfer in Portland, with your poor health and your poor choices. What happened to you, my love? What happened to you? You are such a beautiful person. And we loved each other so much. This makes no sense. We miss you. We miss the Joshua we knew. We miss you, honey. Wherever you went. I like to think that there's some part of you still there. I wish you'd come home, the real you. I wish you'd reach out, the real you. Just wishes. Those things never really happen.